Good evening. I'm Mary Frantz, the League of Women Voters of Chelmsford, and I want to welcome viewers to our annual Candidates Forum. The League of Women Voters in Chelmsford was founded in 1957, and I don't know if Candidates Forums go back that far, but certainly in the 30-plus years that I've been a member, this league event has been a tradition in Chelmsford, except unfortunately for last year when the COVID pandemic necessitated our cancellation. We're happy to be able to be back this year in our socially distant format. I also want to welcome the candidates for the Select Board and the Planning Board who have agreed to participate. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 as an outgrowth of the women's suffrage movement. So we have now entered our second century of our mission to promote informed and active citizen participation in our government. Election in Chelmsford is coming up fast. It's Tuesday, April 6th. This year you have three ways to vote. You can vote by mail and see the town website for information on how to request a ballot. Any application must reach the town clerk by next Wednesday, March 31st, and ballots must be returned by the close of polls on April 6th. You can return the ballot by U.S. mail, or there's a drop box at Town Hall. Then there's early voting. Early voting starts 2 days from now on Saturday from 9 to 1 in the town offices. And then again, Monday through Friday of next week during regular business hours, again at town offices. And finally, on Election Day, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And everybody votes at either the Senior Center or McCarthy School. You all probably know precincts 2 and 3 at the Senior Center and the other precincts at McCarthy School. Currently, there are sample ballots available at on the town website. Just follow the links from the town clerk's office to the town election information. Remember to vote. Right now, we're happy to greet the candidates who are here, and I would like to introduce our moderator, as has become custom also. Our moderator is Ellen Hardy, who is a member of the League of Women Voters of Westford.
Thank you, and thank you to the 4 candidates for selectmen who've come to join us tonight. Let me just explain to you and to the voters at home how this will work this evening. You will each have an opportunity to introduce yourself to the voters with a 1-minute statement. I have several questions that have been crafted by the League of Women Voters of Chelmsford. Some have been submitted by the press as well, so I will present those to you. And you will each have 90 seconds, a minute and a half, to respond to each one of those. And then before we close out, you'll each have 2 minutes to give a closing statement about other things that we haven't covered that you wish that we had. So with that, I think we will do the opening statements going from my left. This is very strange. I've never been in this format before to actually look at you this way, but I like it. So on my left, I will introduce the 4 candidates. Latosha Dixon, Mark Carota, right? Thank you very much, Mark. And then George Dixon, who is currently serving on the Board of Selectmen. And to my far right is April Danielson, who's also running for this. So with that, Latosha, may I turn to you, and would you introduce yourself to the voters of Chelmsford, please? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Women's History Month. It's an honor to be in attendance at the League of Women's Voters Candidates Night. I'm Latosha Dixon, candidate for Chelmsford Select Board. Public health and safety are still primary concerns in our community because the pandemic is not over. Our essential workers, grocery store workers, firefighters, police officers, and countless others continue to need safety measures in place to protect themselves. Our teachers and students need our support to return to school safely. Our businesses also need our help to gain economic recovery and promote growth. Although the Select Board is not directly responsible for these matters, we can contribute our voice to advocate for the town. If elected, I intend to listen to your concerns, be thoughtful in my decision-making, and represent Chelmsford with a positive attitude. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark Carota, would you please introduce yourself to the voters and tell them why you're running?
Sure. My name is Mark Carota, and I'm on the ballot for April 6th for the Select Board. My original thoughts about why I wanted to run were more around a situation that occurred with our town manager last year that kind of got my attention. And as I looked into it and read through some of the details, I felt as though we could potentially broker some more communication, close the gap that appeared to be there, because I think there's probably rationale on both sides for some of the issues that precipitated the problem. But I know that from my perspective, from the outsiders looking in, I think it's really important that we get this closed up. I think I have the skills to help and bring that skill set to the table to mitigate, to try to get to the bottom line and solve the problems that are in front of us. We have the bigger problems in front of us, which are the pandemic and the
Please continue.
okay, the pandemic and the safety, which is of course our number one issue. But number two, or 1A, is this town manager's situation, and we need to get that resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George Dixon is currently serving on the Board of Selectmen. George, please tell us why you would like to continue in that role.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it sounds trite, but I love the town of Chelmsford, and I'm proud to say that I grew up here, I raised my family here, and I enjoy nothing more than serving our town. The best thing about being a member of the Select Board is helping people, whether through a formal government process or through just listening to someone's concerns in the streets and helping out. Working through issues to make policies, people's quality of life more desirable in big and small ways. The next 3 years are very important, and I would like to continue to work on some of the major projects that we've been working on the last 3 years. And I really believe these 3 years are as important as any three since I've been on the board. So,
Thank you. And the fourth candidate, and let me clarify that you will have an opportunity to elect two of these people to the Board of Selectmen. There are 2 vacancies with 4 candidates running. And the fourth candidate is April Danielson. April, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to thank Chelmsford League of Women Voters for hosting tonight. I am a proud resident of Chelmsford for 6 years. Chelmsford had really embraced me and my family when we moved here, originally due to a house fire. We relocated here, and we felt really welcomed in Chelmsford. This is the place that I want to raise my children, and I see a need to serve the town and offer a new voice and perspective to the constituents. And I offer my experience, and I have nothing to gain from this other than just having the opportunity to serve, do the constituents and my community.
Thank you. Thank you. So the first question is one that was crafted by the League of Women Board. Mark, I'll start with you. We'll sort of move ourselves sequentially down, but I'll get back to you, Latosha, I promise. Yeah. Of all the duties of the Select Board, which do you hold as the top priority, Mark? And how would you use your position on the board to advocate for residents and be an ambassador to the town of Chelmsford?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I'll go back to something I said at the outset. I think one of the most important roles in the Select Board is to work alongside with the town manager, who is the chief administrative officer of town, and to work with them in concert to tackle the important situations and the important issues that face our town. If we collaborate, we're much stronger together. And I do believe that that's number one. I mean, the safety of our community has obviously come into question so much with this pandemic and how we tried to immunize our locals, and unfortunately we had the vaccine taken away. But working again with the town manager and the other boards in town in order to have some harmony, have unity in mission and vision, so that we're all rowing and we're all pulling in the same direction, so that we can get there faster and continue to grow the community, but also to make sure that we have better strategic vision and so forth for the community. So,
Thank you.
yep.
George Dixon, in your opening comments, you mentioned that the next 3 years are very important. What do you see as the top priority for the Select Board in those 3 years, please?
The top three, I would say, number one, we have a storage problem. We have a potential water problem. And I think it's just communication, being transparent and working with the citizens of the town. I've been very approachable, and my phone rings constantly, and I work very hard to solve whatever I can do, or bring people to who can solve the problems. And I think it is important that the whole board works together with the officers of the town, the manager, et cetera. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way. So, but maybe we're working on it. Maybe we've improved a little bit. So, but I think transparency is the most important thing, and being available to help people who are in need.
Thank you. April, what do you perceive as the top priority of the Select Board coming up?
I feel that the top priorities would be to recover from the pandemic mostly, and doing so, we need to make sure that our public safety departments have what they need to adequately do their jobs. We also need to focus on health and human services needs, whether that be mental health, getting our seniors the assistance they may need regarding vaccines of that nature, and also working with the various departments to come up with plans to collaborate and work together to get us all through this recovery for the pandemic.
Thank you. And Latosha, your thoughts on the first priority of the Select Board, please.
Yes, I'm in agreement with two of my opponents here, Mark and April, on the public safety issue and having to improve our public health so that we can reopen our schools and also our businesses. In addition, I would want to work with the EPA on our PFAS contamination issue that we have in North Chelmsford Water District. And furthermore, I would want to work on improving our image in the northern Middlesex area as far as increasing diversity and welcoming people to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. George Dixon, for question number 2, I'll start with you if you would. This is submitted by the Chelmsford Climate Action Team. They asked the League to present this to you. There is a citizen petition on this coming annual town meeting warrant. The petition resolves that the Select Board appoint a committee to study and make recommendations for Chelmsford to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by the year 2050, the same as the state goal passed within this last week. As a Select Board member, how would you vote on this resolution petition, and why do you take that stand, please?
Well, I definitely would vote in favor of organizing a committee. I think the more people get involved in the town government, the more participants we have, the better the town is going to be. Obviously, there's questions, there's problems. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people appointed to that committee or looking to be appointed to that committee who have a lot of knowledge in this. And I feel it's kind of a specialty area, a newer area, and so I'd be more than happy to have this committee be appointed to set up some ground rules and discussions, and maybe we could put some policies in place.
April, what is your position on the town meeting warrant relative to the committee?
I would definitely be for it. During quarantine and being in the pandemic and having time to look at the issues around us, I have been attending the climate change of Chelmsford's various meetings they would have and different organizations they would have come and speak. And so I would definitely be for it and figuring out committees to be a part of that. That is an area that I don't know much about, but I would love to research and learn from those that do. So I definitely would be for it.
Okay. Latosha, how are you feeling about the warrant article that's coming up this spring about climate change?
I'm definitely in favor of it. I think Chelmsford has done a good job so far doing what we can for climate change. As you know, we have a single-use ban against plastic bags. We also have one electric charging station here in town that I'm aware of. If there's another one, I hope to about it soon. But the automobile industry is looking to have 50% electric cars by the year 2030. So it's time for us to start planning to see what can we do to support our community with those vehicles. Also, there's solar panels that have been in place for the past decade at least, that we need to continue to add those. All of these things are going to contribute to a better climate for ourselves and for the world in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, your thoughts on the warrant article relative to climate change and the
Yes.
committee?
Thank you. I would absolutely be for that, and I think that the most important part of commissioning a study like that is to start to identify all the areas that would be coming towards us in order to start to budget and start to put those kinds of changes, equipment, whether it's solar panels. I see that in the budget for this year, the capital budget, they're starting to move towards hybrid cars and trucks for the to support the Department of Public Works, which is great. As Latosha mentioned, we do have solar panels in town and have had them for a while. So I do think that a commission that can identify all the areas where we can start to cut back on fossil fuel usage, where we can start to cut back on sewer, contaminants, and obviously the PFAS issue. I mean, that's a great example of something that was put in place that started back in the 70s or 60s, and now it's kind of rearing its head now. So we want to be able to identify what those things are we may be doing today that's going to cause problems for our kids and their kids, 50 years down the road. So I think it's extremely important and a priority.
Thank you. April, we'll start with you for the next question, which also has to do with an article that's going to be on the town meeting warrant this spring. The Planning Board has developed a warrant article for a spring town meeting regarding non-medical, non-retail marijuana facilities, such as those for cultivation, research, and testing. If passed, it would require the Select Board to approve a host community agreement for any applicant. What is your position on this article, please?
I would be in support of that. I feel that if we look around us, Chelmsford is not immune to time or things that outside influences. If we look around at the towns around us, they are thriving with at least cultivating and having plants of that nature to better their revenue. So I would be for that.
Thank you. Latosha, how would you feel about the warrant article relative? And let me make it clear that this is non-medical, non-retail marijuana facilities that's on the warrant.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. There was a time when alcohol was prohibited in this country, but now it's legalized and we make a profit off of it by taxing it. The same has happened with marijuana in the state of Massachusetts. It's been legalized. The town of Chelmsford does not have a marijuana cultivating plan or recreational use.
Yeah, non-retail marijuana facilities and those used for cultivation, research, and testing.
However, if we are able to bring that industry into town, it would create jobs. It would also generate additional revenue for us to use to benefit our community. It's a personal choice whether a person decides to indulge in it, but there's nothing wrong with it. And that's where I am in favor of it. Thank you.
Mark, your position on this, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
As we know, currently it's prohibited in town, and that warrant article is actually to put it so that cultivating, packaging, testing, et cetera, will be allowed in certain areas, which is mainly in just the commercial districts. I think there is a possibility to have a good revenue stream coming into the town, which will be, more taxes and so forth. But I'd like to hear a little bit more details on it from the police, from the fire, and from the Board of Health to get their inputs, because I want to hear what their concerns are. I also would like to hear what their budget requirements might be to support it, because I haven't heard that. I mean, we talk about the revenue, but there could be a cost in security, et cetera. So I'd like to hear from those folks first to find out what their thoughts are. And then as we assess what the revenue, tax revenue, and so forth would be coming out of that, I want to understand the other side and what some of the risks may or may not be. I think once I hear all those details, then I'd be able to make an informed decision.
Thank you. George, have you come to a decision about whether or not you will or will not support the planning board article relative to the marijuana facilities?
I have not as of the moment. I'm going back to the original, when it was on the ballot, and the town of Chelmsford defeated it by less than 1%, which gave the Board of Selectmen the function of saying whether creating the bylaw, right? So that at that time I was not in favor of it. I voted against it. I'm not in favor of doing it strictly for revenue. I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, but I'd like to hear a lot of people who. I'd like to hear a lot more from the public safety, specifically the police chief, because I think he's been opposed to it. And but you know, you can always learn more. So I mean, I'd be willing to listen, but at the moment, I believe I probably would be against it.
Thank you. The fourth question was given to the League by the Lowell Sun, who asked us to present you with this question. And given your current position on a town board, Latosha, it's ironic that we're starting with you about how do you view diversity, equity, and inclusion in Chelmsford, and what issues are important to you on that topic, and how would you go about achieving the goal in terms of your personal views?
Thank you for the question. So yes, I am a member of the Diversity, Racial Equity, and Inclusion Committee that was created by our current select board last summer due to the public outcry against the social injustice movements of 2020. So diversity is something that enriches our lives. All of us come with different experiences. We have different life lessons that we've learned, and all of those things help you to make a good decision. In addition, inclusion is something that is needed. Everyone needs to feel a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and having diversity and inclusion work together and intertwine in our community only makes us a better community. It shows individuals that they're important and that they matter. It also shows businesses and the communities around us that we welcome any and everyone who comes here. There's no hatred, there's no discrimination. You're welcome, you're part of the community. So I believe I answered the question. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, that brings us to you about your view on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the town of Chelmsford.
Yeah, my view is that pledge that the Diversity Committee just put together, I thought was excellent, and I'm glad that the Select Board signed off on that. And I think that diversity, inclusion, all that needs to be reflected in all of our policies within the town, the way we do business, the way we interact with each other, the way we interact with the community on our boards, the way we issue contracts with different folks that may be bidding to bring more diversity, more inclusion into that process. So I think that it's important to have the pledge. I think it's important that we practice it, but I also think it's important that it follows through in all of our policies and procedures within the town hall, so that it's the way we do business now. It's not just a pledge that's up on a wall, but it's the way we do things.
Thank you.
Okay.
George, your views on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the second half of the question is, how would you go about achieving these goals to bring them about in the town of Chelmsford as a member of the Select Board?
Okay, well, as a member, I was one of the original signers. Our board was the first to sign the proclamation, and I'm proud to say I'm part of it. You know, once we cleared a few little things out, we didn't sign it the first night, but we discussed it, and it would just change a little bit of the wording, and everything's fine. I think they're doing a great job. I think it's something that we definitely need, and I'm all for it. Anything I could do to help, I'd be happy to help. I'd like to see them helping businesses. I'd like to see more businesses working with, in this respect. Again, I think that the committee is young, and I think as they progress, they're going to bring a lot of ideas to the town, and potentially some business opportunities for diversification, and we'll just see for the future. But I'm happy and proud to say that I signed the original proclamation.
Thank you. And April, your views about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what do you see as a member of the Select Board that you could do to bring about the goals involved in that?
Thank you. Yes, I believe that diversity is very important. I believe that inclusion is very important. I have served on several boards that didn't have diversity and inclusion prior to me starting with the company, and it's a very eye-opening experience for all people involved, and I feel that the town of Chelmsford is ready for that and willing to be open-minded to diversity and inclusion within the town departments, and if we embrace it as a whole, I feel that the future which I am fighting for Chelmsford would be much brighter, and they'd be more equipped to go forward if we're practicing that now.
Thank you. Mark, we are at you for the 5th question. Soon the town of Chelmsford could be faced with both a major school building project, such as the high school, and perhaps construction of a sewer treatment plant. This debt might be crippling to the town. What are your thoughts about how the town of Chelmsford can fit into this budget and into their financial situation now?
Well, I think that, let's take the sewer first. I think there's a lot of things that are going on with the sewer right now. I mean, they're trying to determine what the causes are of the Lowell sewer plant being overwhelmed by stormwater, et cetera, and to try to find out some solutions for that. I know that Representative Seth Moulton has already put in a bill that will at least start to set the alarm off when the waste is being discharged into the river, and he's also has something in there to look at bringing the technology in these plants up to, current standards and up to the, 21st century. As far as in Chelmsford goes, I think there might be a misconception that people think that we can put a treatment plant like over at Southwell at the river. That can't be done. That's not a place that we can do that. You can't build new plants to discharge into the river. So that's kind of a non-starter there. So at any rate, I do think there's some movement on there. I'm not thrilled with it. I think it's a little slow. But I think it's moving forward. But we're going to have to start to, and we've already made some changes to where new facilities that come in will have to probably put in their own sewer treatment on site, septic type systems. So the bylaws and the code have been updated to support that. As far as the school goes, we're going to have to look at what we can get for state funding and what we can do to save for bonds and so forth, because you're looking at a $250,000, $300,000 project. To do that, in the meantime, we've got to maintain our school in the best shape that we can, especially considering air quality, et cetera.
Okay. George Dixon, how do you think the town of Chelmsford could possibly finance these large items that may be coming down the road?
Well, obviously, it's always difficult to raise large amounts of money. We have applied in the last 3 years for to be on with the School Business Association, the SBA, for a new high school to get funding to begin. But we've been turned down the last 3 years. I do believe that if we do get approved, it would probably require an override, or depending on how much money we get from the state. But it's you're probably talking about a $200 million school. I think that's what Barica just spent on their new high school. As far as the sewer is concerned, I think that Representative Laurie Trahan is working right now with the town. As she's had a few meetings with Mr. Cohen and a few other people in town. They're trying to get some serious funding for the Merrimack River cleanup, and which is not really our problem, but it becomes our problem because it hurts Lowell, and then so it shuts down our, that's where we empty into in Lowell. But I believe this administration will probably come up with some money, and I believe Representative Moulton is working with Laurie, or Laurie's working with whatever, you know what I mean? You know how that works. But I think the only answer right now is going to have to be our own plants. With each development will have to have their own filtration plant temporarily.
Thank you. April, this is a financial question about potential crippling debt. How is Chelmsford going to fund things like the new sewers and also a new high school if that's needed?
I feel that we should really focus on revenue building. I know that we have the water contamination issue, and the DPW is working with the water departments to solve that problem. So I feel that leave it to the experts. But regarding financial, I feel that we should really focus on a pandemic recovery and building revenue, as well as really keeping lines of communication open between all parties so that we will be able to better serve the town.
Thank you. And Latosha, do you have creative financial solutions for these upcoming very large capital expenditures before the town of Chelmsford?
They are very large, and I think we would have to seek the leadership of our town manager, Mr. Paul Cohen, to give us direction at least on what is available to us. We have a AA+ credit rating. Therefore, we should be able to get the loan that we need, maybe not for the full amount, but it should help us as far as securing some funding for that. We also have to reach out to our state representatives and ask them to advocate on our behalf to get more funding for our area. As far as the sewer treatment, I feel like anything new coming to town, they would really need to evaluate whether they would build their own sewer treatment plant, septic system, as others have mentioned. But I do not want to add any more strain to our current sewer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George, we will start with you with the fifth question. Actually, we're up to 6. This was submitted by the Lowell Sun newspaper. How can a member of the select board specifically give your thoughts about specific steps that you can do to bring about consensus building and teamwork between the select board members themselves and among other boards that the select board works with? So some pretty specific steps that you think could be taken in that area, please.
Yes, ma'am. I think currently we do have some joint meetings with the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee. Tri-board, they call them tri-board meetings. But I do believe that we probably could do more even though it's we don't want to step on anybody else's purview. But it would be nice to be working, well, we have liaisons, obviously. We have liaisons to each committee, individual selectmen assigned to all the committees. But I believe that there would be probably a good idea to have a couple times a year meet with the planning board, and see what their long-term plans are and how we could maybe help them. And is the Board of Health, I mean, that's autonomous, so sometimes you don't want to step on, we had a problem with when we had the chickens and what have you. Our hands were tied because it wasn't in our purview. But I do believe that more communication, more meetings between various committees and exchanging ideas would be very beneficial.
Thank you. April, do you see ways that the select board among themselves can communicate better and also with other town boards that they work with?
Definitely. I feel that, like George said, there should be more joint meetings with other committees. I feel that there should be strategic planning done. And in strategic planning, you really get to the heart of the matter, and then you suss it out from there and go to each detail regarding, okay, this is the problem, this is our strong side, this is our weak side. So I feel that strategic planning would be beneficial, and just be open to other people's views and perspectives and communicate clearly what your perspective is.
Thank you. A couple of bullets from you, perhaps, Latosha, on things that both among the select board members and also with other boards that could be done in the town of Chelmsford.
I think you can always make progress when there's respect for each individual, listening to their thoughts, communicating, sharing ideas together. Having tri-board meetings can be long and exhausting. I would actually break that out into just 2 meetings, like the planning board and the select board. That way you can really focus in on the issues. Also documenting the decisions that were made and why they were made. All of those things just help build the relationship over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, your thoughts on how this could
Yes.
specific?
The very first thing that I think needs to happen again is the most important relationship in town government, excuse me, is between the select board and the town manager. And the first thing to do would be to sit down as a group and flush out what some of the issues have been, what some of the, because there was, quote, hard feelings and there were different things that were said. But let's flush out what those problems are, and let's try to unite around a common set of issues and strategies and tactics that need to occur. Understand that and address the soft skills, the respect issues and so forth, to try to pull them together and get united. Once that occurs, I would then start to move out towards the planning board and the finance committee to start to bring them into that same fold of mutual respect and mutual understanding, and get their input on goals and so forth for the town, and then I would expand it further out to the school committee. So I think you got to get that key relationship straightened out first and then expand it out.
Okay, thank you. This goes back to an issue that has been addressed a little bit, which is the status of the sewer systems and the treatment plant in Lowell. April, we'll start with you getting into more specifics about this particular problem. Do you think the town should just continue to work with Lowell and the state and Representatives Trahan and Seth Moulton to increase available capacity? Or should the town look into building its own sewage treatment plant? Or is there another course? What do you see as the process here to come up with the best solution for this for the town?
I always believe in doing research regarding an issue and looking at the whole picture, so I would really want to talk to our state representatives and figure out what have others done with the same issue, because we're not the only ones that probably have this issue, and what has been successful and what has not been successful. So I feel the first part of that statement, you said talk to the state representatives and find out what they have done about the issue, would be where to start.
Thank you. Latosha, how would you approach with Chelmsford having to find a solution for where you are now with the sewers? What option would you see?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, that I feel like it's absolutely necessary for us to make a decision about where we are with our sewer capacity. If we are at the extreme, we need to halt any further strain on our system. From there, we need to look at what are our options. Are we able to build a sewer treatment plant? Are large developers able to create their own septic system or sewer treatment? Is there a possible way that Lowell can increase their capacity? All of these things need to be evaluated and looked at to see what's the best option for Chelmsford. But I would definitely say I would not put any additional strain on our current infrastructure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark, have you given this some thought and what you see as the option that perhaps Chelmsford should follow?
Right. I think, as both Latosha and April both mentioned, we need to look into the details to find out what are some of the options. In other words, can the plant in Lowell be recertified to actually take more capacity? Because they're certified to a certain level, but they actually may be able to hold more. So that's the first step to find out what's going on. The second was, in town, we've already changed our code here so that it's no longer mandatory to hook up to town sewer. So new developments and so forth, especially if they're larger, they are going to probably have to, because there is an option that where they could still hook up, but they are probably going to still have to have on-site waste treatment, which is perfectly fine. And if you look at the cost, the cost of the hooking up to the town sewer versus actually doing your own on-site waste treatment is a wash. There's really not much difference there. And right now our groundwater, I mean, we don't have a lot of issues with waste because we're all on town sewer. So I think, and the fact that we don't really have a lot of land area for growth, that I think we're okay for the time being, and we should take the longer view of what we might be able to do with the state in federal, if they can jump in and try to help us out, because I think this problem, you know, in the situation with the Merrimack River, that crosses state lines, and that's why Seth Moulton and Lori Trahan are involved, because they can be, because of that situation. So,
Thank you. George, you probably have been dealing with this actually in the last 3 years that you've been on the board. Do you see a path going forward about the sewage problem in Chelmsford?
Well, I believe the original problem started in Lowell with, they had the sewer and the drainage all going into the same, into Duck Island. So they got some serious funding, I believe, at one time, and they started a major project to separate the two. I don't believe they completed it as well as, I don't believe they completed the whole project. So as a result, when there's a big storm, a big rainstorm or whatever, they get a lot of sewage, untreated sewage and drainage flying into through Duck Island into the river. And they've been reprimanded, you know, many times by so they don't have the best relationship with the federal government, who we all have to deal with when we're dealing with the river and discharging, et cetera, like that. If we were to try to do our own, we'd still have to get a license to do some discharge. And I'm not talking about trying to do 100%. I'm talking about if we could do maybe 20%, maybe team up with Westford, part of Westford and part of Tingsboro. I don't think the financing would be as bad as because we're already paying the rates to somebody, and we're paying Lowell like $1.7 million, I think, for what we send in just from Southwell for the use of, you know, to get rid of that discharge that excuse me. So I think it could definitely be worked out. It's going to take a little time, that's all.
Thank you. So we are back to you for the first question, and this was sent to us by the Chelmsford Independent newspaper. The COVID-19 crisis has brought with it many economic challenges to the town of Chelmsford and to the region. What is the Select Board's role in addressing these challenges, please?
Yes, the Select Board responsibility in this is to be an innovator of ideas and also to create a pathway to resolve the economic issues. So let's take, for instance, a business wanting to start up in Chelmsford. We would have to look at our bylaws to ensure that they're not too strict or too restrictive, so that a person who has the money, the funds, the availability to come to town chooses another town over us because of our restrictions. At the same time, we want to be innovative and give our different boards the opportunity to expand on their ideas and talk them out and actually come together with a plan for the future. The Select Board has been doing a good job with the bylaws thus far, but I still see that there's room for improvement. Thank you.
Mark, what do you see that as a member of the Select Board that you could do to address the challenges that COVID has presented both for business and for the town?
Well, I mean, first, there's around, my understanding is there's around $10 million coming in from the state to help to support the COVID and the recovery. So I think our main purpose at this point would be to look at what that funding is and what would be the best way to use that funding in order to help us through this recovery. So, I mean, we could use it just for infrastructure. We could use it for if there are any areas where we could actually, at the tail end, start to do vaccines again in the area. That would be a plus. I have a feeling that by the time we get there, it may be closer to being done with vaccines. But at any rate, but really looking at infrastructure, looking at ways that, again, that we can bring in businesses and add more growth and so forth, and looking at some of the small businesses and finding out where their issues are, if there's anything there that needs to be helped for recovery, and, you know, continue to look at our rates that we're charging for the taxpayers and so forth to see if there's anything there that we can do to help them out as well, because this has impacted everybody, and it really needs to be assessed between what federal aid's coming into different groups versus what that 10 million can do and how we can spread that.
Okay. George Dixon, do you see any specific steps that, as a member of the Select Board and the Select Board in its entirety, can do to address the economic challenges that the town is recovering from
Yes,
the
ma'am.
last year?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think we have to take a lot of direction from the state, from the governor. I mean, we have to wait for the governor to come down and tell us, distancing and masking and, percentages of people. And so basically, our hands were tied in many decisions, okay? As far as the 10 million is concerned, I think a lot of that money is earmarked already for, and you mentioned, I believe, bacteria. I think what they're going to try to do is to redo the ventilation in all the schools and to make sure that the schools will be 100%. And that's going to take a pretty good piece of that. I would like to congratulate the Board of Health for the job they did with the vaccines. I don't think they got all the help from the state that they were promised at times. I don't think I think it was a difficult time for all towns, but the Board of Health has done a tremendous job. Sue Rosa and her staff, and a lot of the volunteers from Town Hall and other places were fantastic. So I think the town did as much as they could do without without the direction from the governor and the limits put on us by the governor and even the federal government at times.
Thank you. April, what steps do you think the Select Board can do to help raise the town from the last year and the economic effects?
Yes, thank you. I believe that we should support small businesses and bring small businesses in, and the Select Board should have a strong role in welcoming work with other leaderships and executives to bring the big corporations in as well as small business in, so building revenue that way. I feel as well as work with the town manager closely to make sure that our public safety departments have what they need and adequately staffed. I feel that our fire department and our police and our first responders have done a great job regarding assisting and going in with COVID and all of the things that are along with that. I feel that we need to support them and make sure they have adequately what they need, as well as those that have lost wages. Food insecurity is a big issue in Chelmsford. I've said this before, but it's a big issue in Chelmsford that you might not think of. And so families out there that have lost wages and don't know when the next meal's on the table, I feel like we should really assist the community's efforts around food insecurity, as well as mental health and awareness, and offer different avenues to be of assistance with the different departments.
Thank you. So I have one last question, and then we'll go to your closing statements, which you each get an opportunity to make. This one has to do with water in the town of Chelmsford. The Center East and the North Water Districts are independent of town government. They're separate districts. However, North District test wells, which are on DPW property on Richardsville Road, have PFA levels above the state DEP standard contaminant levels. What is the town government's responsibility, and specifically in this particular case, what is the responsibility of a member of the Select Board, Mark, to assure a safe water supply for the residents of Chelmsford?
I think the town government's role in this is to make sure that the testing that's supposed to be put in place is ongoing. So any of the state regulations that have come down in order to control PFAS and the way they're testing, the protocols they're using, the timeliness of that testing, and to make sure that they're testing for all the compounds, make sure that they're not exceeding the 20 parts per trillion. That is the new limit. And I think they really need to make sure that we assess the aquifer, because with that particular well being on top of the aquifer, we don't know where that's going. So that's going to need to be checked downstream. And some of the coordination, I think, for that needs to come from the town to make sure East, Central, and North are all working somewhat in harmony to make sure that that's happening. And my understanding is that there is a good relationship right now with those three districts and the town manager and the Select Board. So I feel as though they are working together, and I feel like that's a good situation right now. So,
George, your thoughts about the relationship between the Select Board and town government and the separate water districts in terms of assuring the quality of the water in the Chelmsford?
Well, I mean, it's very close to my heart. I live right next to the aquifer. I was there the other day when there was a big drum of oil discovered on the DPW, the former DPW land, and then later in the day there was a big drum of gasoline buried. Now that was like, 10 years ago, there were like 6 barrels found there. I believe, and it's not going to go over well with certain people in town, but Monday night we have a meeting with and I don't believe anything should be going on that property until it's got a clean bill of health. We got we're putting in 10 monitoring wells, new monitoring wells in there. It's across the street. Actually, there's a brook that runs through that property that goes right next to 4 main wells across the street for the North Chelmsford District. I think that there should be a thorough investigation of what's in the land. Maybe I don't know if they can do the infrared scanning. I don't know what I know. Weston and Sampson is working. The DEP is in there. There's an LSP in there, a professional doing some studying. But I think the town is looking to move the fire trucks in there now, and because there's a new fire station being built in North, so they want to use it temporarily. I don't think it's a good idea. I think the less things you have in there right now until everything is clear and stamped that there's no problems in there, I think we should use it as little as possible.
Okay.
Thank
April, what do you think the role of the select board should be in working with the water districts and the water quality in Chelmsford?
I feel the select board is doing what they need to do currently regarding the water issues. They've been working closely with the DPW to to get authorization actually to test. So I feel that that's moving along forward well. I believe Governor Baker just awarded a grant to Chelmsford and surrounding towns to tackle this issue. And if elected, I would like to continue those efforts. And to me, this is just another reason why we should keep the lines of communication open between all parties so that we can support the DPW and the water department so that we could get this resolved as best we can.
Thank you. And the last word on this, Latosha, from you in terms of the relationship between the select board and the independent water districts.
Yes, I agree with the opponents on this particular matter. We need communication. We need to ask questions. We need to ask more questions so that they know that we are serious about this particular matter and the safety of the water for our citizens here in Chelmsford. We could do some soil sample testing. There's additional water testing that could be performed, but it's all about getting the data and knowing how can we address this issue. Is it something that is an easy cleanup? Probably not, because it's one of those chemicals that's really hard to degrade. But there is an option out there. We just have to find out what's best for the town of Chelmsford. But it's our responsibility as select board members, whomever gets elected, to be the ambassador for the residents of Chelmsford.
Thank you. That brings us to our closing comments, your closing comments, and we'll go in reverse order. So I will start with you, April, if I may, and ask you to summarize your thoughts about your candidacy, please.
Yes, I want to thank you and the Chelmsford League of Women Voters for having us tonight. Like I said before, I am running for select board with nothing to gain except being a part of this community and helping the efforts of the departments move forward. I think Chelmsford is a wonderful community and welcoming, and I offer my communication skills as well as my advocacy skills. I am very passionate about Chelmsford and the community growth. And to quote Thomas Edison, there's a quote that says, discontent is the first necessity of progress. And I am all about progress. So vote for April in April 6th, and thank you.
Thank you very much. George Dixon, your closing comment to the voters of Chelmsford, please.
Thank you. My name is George Dixon, obviously, and I'm running for re-election. This is for my 5th term. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and Chelmsford Telemedia for putting on this debate and having us be able to express our opinions and views. And I'd like to thank you again for doing another great job. You've been doing it for many years, and not that you're that old, just many years, and you always seem to get a little better, you know. To the other candidates running, I really appreciate their interest, their willingness to get involved in government. We need more people. We need more citizens to get involved in government. So the next 3 years are crucial for the town of Chelmsford. We need to resolve the sewer issues, as we spoke about. One of my favorite topics will be trying to get us down to our own representative. It may not be happen overnight, but I think if we really put an effort into it, we can at least, having 4 is ridiculous. We have no help in the State House at all. We don't get our Chapter 670 money. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as people think, but we don't get what other towns get. Your town particularly, Billerica, we don't get anywhere near what they get. So Chapter 70, Chapter 90 money, we're a little bit behind. And we have nobody in there fighting for us. So that would be a big goal for me this year, is to fight. That would be my number 1 goal, other than on top of the sewer and the water problems, is to get our own representation in town of Chelmsford.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I respectfully ask the voters if they would consider me for one of their 2 votes on April 6th. I'd be proud to serve them again. Thank you very much.
Mark, your closing statement to the voters, please.
Sure, and thank you so much. It was great meeting you, Ellen, and I appreciate the professional job that you guys do, and thanks to all the participants tonight for all their great thoughts and ideas. I think it really comes back to, for me, it's about the core issue is that respect and the collaboration between the boards. And that's an area where I really feel like I can help to build that kind of a coalition between people to bring them together to a common purpose and a common vision. And I think if we can do that, a lot of these other problems will start to be able to be resolved. More transparency and communication with the residents. It seems as though it's difficult to find information. Like today when I was looking at the water departments and I went to each of the different sites, they all have something different, and it was hard to really figure out exactly what was going on. So things like that can be pulled together, and especially an issue of public safety, we could do a better job with communicating where we're at, what the requirements are, and how we're going forward. I have no interests in town. I don't have business. I don't have financial. I have no interests at all. My only interest is to see if my skill set and my background, I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 10 years, and I'm the vice chair there for the last couple, and to see if some of that background, as well as some of my business background and just general background, might be of help in usefulness in the town in this role. We need to do something more to expand our business base here. That's been an area that's been going on that hasn't really taken off, and I think that's an area I can really make a difference in, as well as 40Bs and maintaining our safe harbor and making sure that we are able to have friendly 40Bs go where we want them, as opposed to being more forced because we're not certified and we don't have safe harbor. So if any of those things or anything I've said tonight are of interest to any of the voters, I'd really suggest that you take a look again at my platform, Carota 2024, on my Facebook, or 2021 on my Facebook page, and consider me for one of your 2 votes. Thank you.
And Latosha, your closing statement, please.
Yes. I'm Latosha Dixon, candidate for Chelmsford Select Board. I'm fairly new to Chelmsford. However, I made the choice to integrate myself into town politics because I feel it's important to step up, be involved, and use my voice as an advocate for change, and to help where I can. Chelmsford is a lovely town, and we have the potential to be the shining star of northern Middlesex County. Our local government is key to our development of that reputation. We can work efficiently, use our tax revenue to benefit the community at large, advocate for change, support our teachers and students as they return to school, support our businesses, large and small, preserve our historic buildings, embrace our future. I don't have all the answers, and it will take a collective effort to deal with the difficult issues that we are facing. However, I believe we will overcome every hurdle. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to our moderator tonight, Chelmsford Telemedia, and to the other candidates. It has been a pleasure sharing my evening with you, and I respectfully ask for one of your 2 votes on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for offering your time to run. I'm going to ask you if you would vacate the stage. And while the select board candidates are leaving, let me tell the voters, either way, actually, all roads lead to Rome. So you can either go either way. We will now ask Deirdre Conley, who is running for the planning board, to come up to the stage. There are 3 other candidates running for the planning board. However, none of the other 3 were able to make this evening's meeting, and the league has a policy that a debate of one is not a debate. So we will ask Deirdre to come up and make a statement to introduce herself to you. And while she is on her way up, let me tell you that there are other there are other candidates that you will be voting for who are unopposed in the election on April 6th. Donna Newcomb, who is an incumbent on the school committee, is running for re-election. Erica Clifford is running as the associate to the planning board. Wendy Morello is running for a 5-year term on the Housing Authority. John Souza, who is currently on the Cemetery Commission, is running for re-election. And William Sanowski is running for a 3-year term on the Board of Health. In addition, for the trustees of Public Library, there are 2 seats and 1 candidate. Pak De Yaus is running, so these people are unopposed on the ballot on the 6th, and you will also be voting for your representatives to the representative town meeting. And with that, I will introduce you to Deirdre Conley, who is one of the 4 candidates who is running for the 3 seats on the planning board. And Deirdre, the floor is yours. If you do take off your mask, the voters will be able to hear you more clearly. If you're comfortable doing that, you may keep it on as well.
You know what, I'm going to keep it on.
Okay, absolutely. The floor is yours, please.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Deirdre Conley. I'm a physician in town. I have a family practice here in town. I've lived in town for 20 years, have been a town meeting rep for about half that time. Also been involved in a couple ad hoc committees. You might ask why a physician would have an interest in running for the planning board. And the answer is that I recently was a neighbor to a oversized proposed development in the center, in the historic district. And watching this process go from almost the beginning till the end, I saw that there were things in the planning process that I didn't like, and there were things that were not clear. Also realized that the planning board is integral to the evolution of the town, and that it seems to me that the zoning is representative of the principles that guide the town and how we see ourselves and how we see what we want to become. I hope to be a common sense voice at the table at the planning board, and also a voice for the neighborhoods and the residents. I'm running because I want this process to be more consistent, as well as more transparent and, frankly, more timely. If elected, I'll visit the sites, I'll study the relevant codes, and I will talk to the neighbors and the neighborhoods. I want to be the common sense voice in the conversation. I believe my skill set as a physician makes me suited to this task. I'm accustomed to operating in a regulated environment. I'm accustomed to listening to people with empathy in what are for them very stressful times. I'm accustomed to taking in information and making difficult decisions in complex situations, and I'm a lifelong learner. I respectfully ask for one of your 3 votes for the Chelmsford Planning Board.
Thank you for taking the time to come this evening, Deirdre. The other 3 candidates whose names will be on the ballot on April 6th are Glenn Cole, who is currently serving on the planning board, Tim Shanahan, who is also an incumbent, and Paul McDougall, who is running for one of the 3 open positions. So the election is on Tuesday, April 6th, the Tuesday after Easter Sunday. You have already heard what the ground rules are. You can vote by mail. Early voting begins this weekend and continues all through next week. And in addition, of course, you can go to the polls on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the 6th of April. Please take advantage of this right. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you for watching this evening, and good night.